The call of the ancient path is not merely a call to a set of beliefs, customs, or religious duties. It is a summons from eternity, a voice that has echoed through the corridors of time, inviting humanity back to its origin, back to its purpose, and back to the one who formed us in the beginning. This call is older than any nation, deeper than any tradition, and more enduring than the rise and fall of empires. It is the voice that spoke into the void and brought forth light. It is the whisper that called Abraham out of Ur, the fire that spoke to Moses from the burning bush, and the still small voice that thundered in the spirit of the prophets. It is the very voice that once walked in the garden in the cool of the day, seeking communion with the one he created in his own image. To walk with the Messiah is to answer that ancient call. It is not a new invention or a modern philosophy. It is the return to the beginning, the restoration of what was lost in Eden. Mankind was never created to be distant from God. We were not made to live in confusion, sin, or fear. We were fashioned for intimacy, for covenant, and for continual walking with our Creator. That was the original design. God walking with man. That walk was broken when sin entered, when man turned away from the Creator and walked his own way. And ever since, the history of redemption has been God calling his creation back to that walk. Every commandment, every feast, every prophecy, none of it was random. It was all part of a divine choreography, a heavenly map leading us back to the heart of God. The law was not given just to restrain, but to reveal, not to burden, but to point to something greater, the one who would fulfill it. The sacrifices pointed to the ultimate sacrifice. The priesthood pointed to the ultimate high priest. The tabernacle was a shadow of the dwelling that God desires with his people, and in the fullness of time, that desire became flesh. The Word, the ancient and eternal Logos, stepped into history and walked among us, not to erase the ancient path, but to fulfill it and reopen it for all who would come. The ancient path is not marked by the convenience of modern life. It does not bend to culture, time, or personal preference. It is unchanging because it proceeds from the unchanging one. When the Messiah called his disciples, he did not call them to attend a synagogue service once a week or simply believe in his teachings. He said, "Follow me." That command was, and still is radical. It is not a call to observe from a distance, but to walk in step with him. To walk with the Messiah is to return to the original intention of creation, to move in rhythm with God. This walk is not theoretical. It is not abstract. It is lived out in every decision, every word, every moment. It means that your steps are no longer your own. Your journey is no longer dictated by your ambitions, but by the Spirit of the one who leads you. This walk affects how you treat others, how you use your time, how you see the world, and how you carry yourself in the midst of trials. It is a walk of sanctification, of transformation, of surrender. But it is also a walk of restoration. The more you walk with him, the more you become what you were always meant to be, not a slave of sin, but a child of the Most High. To heed the call of the ancient path is to embrace a reality that often contradicts the path of the world. While the world says, "Look out for yourself," the ancient path says, "Deny yourself." While culture proclaims independence, the Messiah calls for total dependence on God. While the world rushes, the path of the Messiah often leads us to wait, to listen, to be still and know that he is God. The pace of the world is frantic and aimless. The pace of the Messiah is purposeful and eternal. Many will not understand this walk. Many will reject it because it appears foolish to those who are perishing. But to those who respond to the call, it becomes the power of God and the wisdom of God. It becomes life, peace, and joy, and though it often leads through valleys and wildernesses, Every step is watched over by the shepherd. The same shepherd who walked ahead of you, who laid down his life for you, now walks beside you. He walks not just to lead, but to restore, not just to teach, but to transform. When you walk this path, you begin to see through new eyes. The Scriptures are no longer just pages in a book. They become a living voice, a lamp to your feet, and a light to your path. You realize that your life is part of a greater narrative. You are not an accident, not a product of randomness. You were called before time began, and the path you walk now was prepared long before you were born. You were born into this generation not by chance, but because the path of the Messiah was appointed for you in this exact time and place. There are moments on this walk when the way will seem hidden, the road uncertain, but it is in these moments that the ancient path reveals its greatest power, for it is not a path of sight, but of faith. It is not about knowing the entire journey, but about knowing the one who walks it with you. He who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it. The walk may be long, but the companion is eternal. The path may wind through hardship, but the destination is glory, and here lies the deepest mystery of all. The path is not merely about reaching heaven. It is about heaven reaching into you. It is about becoming a vessel through which the presence of God flows into the world. Your walk becomes a testimony, your life becomes a sign, your steps become a living message that says, God is real, He is near, and He calls all people to return to Him. To walk this path is to walk in covenant. A covenant sealed not with ink, but with blood, the blood of the Lamb. It is to live with the awareness that your life is not your own. You were bought with a price, and now every step you take is holy ground. Your workplace, your home, your school, your community, each place becomes a platform for the revelation of God through you. This ancient path leads not only forward, but upward. It lifts your eyes from the temporary to the eternal. It anchors your soul in truth when the winds of culture blow fiercely. It reminds you that you are part of something unshakable, unchangeable, and unstoppable. So do not be discouraged if the road seems hard. Do not be surprised when you are misunderstood. Do not grow weary in doing good, for every step taken in obedience, in faith, in love is recorded in eternity. The path you walk today is shaping your eternity, and the footprints you leave behind may be the very guide for others to find their way to the Messiah. You have heard the call. It is not the call of man. It is the call of the ancient path, a call that beckons you not just to believe, but to walk. And in walking, to become what you were always meant to be, a child of light, a bearer of glory, and a living echo of the one who walked before you. So rise, take the first step, and let the journey begin. The ancient path awaits, and the Messiah walks beside you. From the beginning of time, a divine mystery has been unfolding, a pattern woven into the fabric of creation, hidden within the ancient scrolls, whispered by prophets, and revealed through signs, symbols, and sacred acts. This mystery is the unfolding of the Messiah as the fulfillment of every shadow, the substance behind every symbol, and the reality toward which every ritual pointed. To walk with the Messiah is to step out of the shadows and into the light of divine fulfillment. It is to realize that what was once veiled has now been made known, not merely as an idea or teaching, but as a living reality. Throughout the Scriptures, from Genesis to Malachi, God was painting a prophetic portrait, layer upon layer, clue upon clue, preparing His people for the revelation of the one who would come. The Messiah did not arrive as a random interruption of history. He was the centerpiece of history, the climax of prophecy, the one through whom all things were made, and for whom all things exist. Everything before Him pointed forward, and everything after Him flows from His coming. When He walked the earth, He was not introducing a new religion. He was fulfilling a divine plan set in motion before the foundation of the world. The sacrificial system given in detail in the Torah was never meant to be the final solution. It was a temporary shadow of something greater. The blood of goats and bulls could never truly cleanse sin. It could only cover it for a time. The high priest who entered the Holy of Holies did so with trembling, knowing he was but a man, limited and flawed. But all of it, the altar, the priest, the sacrifice, the temple, was a foreshadowing. The Messiah came as the eternal high priest, not from the order of Aaron, but from the order of Melchizedek, eternal, royal, and righteous. He did not offer the blood of animals. He offered his own blood once and for all, and the veil in the temple was torn not from earth to heaven, but from heaven to earth, for it was heaven that initiated the unveiling. Even the feasts, the sacred calendar of Israel, were prophetic rehearsals. Passover was not just about deliverance from Egypt. It was about the ultimate Passover lamb who would take away the sin of the world. The Feast of Unleavened Bread spoke of sinless perfection, which he embodied. First fruits declared the promise of resurrection, fulfilled when he rose from the dead. Shavuot, Pentecost, anticipated the outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon those who believed in him. And even the fall feasts, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, yet speak of things still unfolding, his return, the final judgment, and the dwelling of God with man. In him the shadows find their meaning. He is the seed promised to Eve, the ark of Noah, the ram of Abraham, the ladder of Jacob, the deliverer of Moses, the rock in the wilderness, the manna from heaven, the tabernacle in the midst, the shepherd of David, the fire of Elijah, and the suffering servant of Isaiah. Every book of Scripture whispers his name. Every prophet longed to see his day, and when he came, he fulfilled not just isolated prophecies, but entire patterns. He didn't just fulfill words. He fulfilled roles, images, and mysteries. To walk with the Messiah is to walk with the one who transforms what was once obscure into clarity, what was once distant into intimacy. It is to realize that your faith is not built on guesses or vague hopes, but on a foundation as solid as prophecy and as sure as God's promises. Every step he took was in perfect alignment with what had been spoken. Born in Bethlehem as foretold, called out of Egypt as foreshadowed, a light to Galilee, despised and rejected by men, pierced, silent before his accusers, buried with the rich, and risen on the third day, all just as it was written. And this revelation is not just historical, it is personal. The Messiah does not merely fulfill ancient prophecy, he fulfills the deep need within every human heart, the longing for purpose, identity, belonging, forgiveness, redemption. He is the fulfillment of it all. Every human soul is a story written with a yearning for restoration, for something greater, for meaning beyond the temporal. And in him we find that meaning. In him the broken are made whole, the lost are found, the dead are raised to life. It is one thing to believe in the Messiah, it is another to walk with him. To walk with him is to move from shadow to substance, not just to know the fulfillment intellectually, but to live it out experientially. You no longer walk in the darkness of uncertainty because he is the light. You no longer strive under the weight of legalism because he has fulfilled the law. You no longer look for signs because you have the sign himself, the one who was pierced and raised, who conquered death and lives forevermore. In this walk, every step brings you deeper into revelation. You begin to see that your own life has been filled with shadows, moments you didn't understand, trials that seemed meaningless, seasons that felt like silence. But as you walk with him, you begin to see that even your life follows a divine pattern. Just as the Scriptures were full of hidden prophecy, your own journey contains hints of purpose. The detours become training grounds. The wilderness becomes a place of encounter. The brokenness becomes the place where grace flows the deepest. For in him all things are made new. He did not come to abolish the past, but to fulfill it, to bring it to completion, and he does the same in your life. He takes your incomplete chapters and brings them to fulfillment. He takes the loose ends and weaves them into a masterpiece. He takes what was meant for evil and turns it for good. He takes the unfinished song and brings it to crescendo. To walk with the Messiah is to walk in a reality that is more real than anything the world offers. It is to step out of the temporary and into the eternal. It is to live not merely reacting to life, but responding to a higher calling. The fulfillment of prophecy is not just something that happened 2,000 years ago. It is something that continues to happen in you and through you as you walk with the one who is both the author and finisher of your faith. You are not walking with a figure of history. You are walking with the living Word, the one who was, who is, and who is to come. The same power that fulfilled every ancient shadow now lives in you. The same Spirit that raised him from the dead empowers you to live a life of purpose, purity, and power. Every day becomes an opportunity to step more fully into the divine reality, to leave behind the fading shadows and live in the light of his presence. And one day the ultimate fulfillment will come, not just in your life, but in all creation. He will return not as the suffering servant, but as the conquering king. The scroll will be opened, the trumpet will sound, and every eye will see him. The shadows will vanish completely, and the fullness of all things will be revealed. But until that day, we walk with him step by step, from glory to glory, from shadow to substance, from the seen to the unseen, until faith becomes sight, and the mystery is no longer mystery, but the eternal reality of being with him forever. To walk with the Messiah is to live in divine alignment, an alignment that transcends human schedules, earthly customs, and temporary ambitions. It is a realignment of one's life with the sacred design of heaven. In the natural world, when something is aligned properly, it functions as it was intended. A wheel that is out of alignment wobbles, causes instability, and eventually breaks down. In the same way, when a life is out of alignment with its Creator, it loses direction, clarity, and peace. But when it is brought into divine alignment through the Messiah, it becomes whole, ordered, and filled with purpose. The journey of humanity has largely been one of misalignment. From the moment Adam and Eve stepped out of obedience in the garden, the axis of human living shifted. Mankind began to live according to his own will, his own timing, his own truth. The result was chaos, spiritual dislocation, relational brokenness, and disconnection from the source of life. But God, in his mercy, initiated a plan of restoration. He introduced divine patterns, laws, seasons, covenants, not to control humanity, but to bring it back into rhythm with heaven. The law was given not just as a code, but as a compass. The feasts were not simply cultural observances, but appointments with God, windows into his eternal timing. When the Messiah came, he did not discard these divine patterns. Instead, he fulfilled them, infused them with eternal meaning, and offered us the way back into alignment with the Father. He lived a life perfectly aligned with the will and word of God. Every word he spoke, every step he took, every act he performed was in complete harmony with heaven. He did not act on his own, but only what he saw the Father doing. He was not driven by the expectations of man, but by the timing of God. This is the life of divine alignment, where your heartbeat syncs with the heartbeat of the Almighty. Walking with the Messiah brings us into this same alignment. It is not merely about believing in him. It is about patterning your life after him. It is allowing your choices, your values, your time, and your relationships to be ordered according to His will. It means that no part of your life is left out. Your work, your rest, your giving, your praying, your speaking, your dreaming, all must come under the rule of the kingdom. You cannot claim to walk with the Messiah and walk in opposition to His word. The two cannot coexist. Divine alignment requires surrender. This alignment affects time. In the modern world, time is often ruled by the clock, the calendar of man, and the pressure of deadlines. But the biblical calendar is not based on the Gregorian system. It is based on God's appointed times. When you walk with the Messiah, you begin to see time differently. You begin to mark your days not by earthly trends, but by heavenly appointments. The Sabbath becomes more than a day of rest. It becomes a sign of covenant, a prophetic taste of eternal peace. The feasts become more than historical remembrances. They are revelations of Messiah's past, present, and future work. To live in divine alignment means your life is tuned to heaven's frequency. It means you're not running after blessings, but blessings follow you because you are walking in the path of obedience. It means your prayers shift from asking God to bless your plans to asking God to reveal His plans. You stop asking Him to move according to your timing and instead trust His timing, knowing that He makes all things beautiful in their appointed season. This alignment is not passive. It requires intentionality. It means making room for God in every part of your day. It means beginning your day not with the noise of the world, but with the stillness of His presence. It means letting His word shape your thoughts more than social media, culture, or public opinion. It means choosing righteousness when compromise is easier, choosing faith when fear is louder, choosing worship when worry arises. Divine alignment also means understanding your identity. When you walk with the Messiah, you are not who you used to be. You are not defined by your past, your failures, or even your natural heritage. You are part of a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people set apart. You are grafted into the covenant of Abraham, heirs according to the promise. The same Spirit that raised Yeshua from the dead now lives in you, not to keep you the same, but to transform you into His likeness. This identity realignment changes how you see yourself and how you interact with the world. You are no longer chasing affirmation. You live from the affirmation of the Father. Divine alignment also reorients your sense of purpose. Many people live aimlessly, going from one season to the next without clarity or direction. But the Messiah calls His followers to walk intentionally. He doesn't just save you to get you into heaven. He saves you to bring heaven into you. He places you where you are in your family, your workplace, your generation, because there is a divine purpose in it. When your life is aligned with His will, even the mundane becomes meaningful. The job you work becomes a mission field. The conversations you have become seeds of truth. Your suffering becomes a platform for His glory. Walking in divine alignment also involves a shift in your relationships. The Messiah teaches us to love as He loves, not just those who are easy to love, but even our enemies. He calls us to forgive as we have been forgiven, to serve rather than be served, to honor others above ourselves. This way of living is radically different from the world's pattern, but it is the way of heaven. And when you walk in it, you become a reflection of Him to a watching world. This alignment affects your response to trials as well. When you're out of alignment, hardships often feel like punishment or abandonment. But when you're aligned with God's purpose, you begin to see trials differently. You understand that pruning is part of growth, that testing refines faith, and that delays are not denials. They are divine appointments. You learn to trust that God is working all things together for your good, because you are called according to His purpose. In this walk you discover peace, not the fragile peace the world gives, but the unshakable peace of knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. Even when the storm rages around you, you are anchored. Even when the future is uncertain, you are confident, because divine alignment doesn't depend on circumstances. It depends on covenant, and the Messiah is the mediator of a better covenant, sealed with his blood, upheld by his faithfulness, and completed in his timing. As you walk with him, you are constantly being adjusted. Just as a compass must be recalibrated, our hearts must continually be brought back into alignment. This happens through repentance, through prayer, through meditating on his word, and through walking in community with other believers. It is a daily, lifelong journey, not of perfection, but of progress. Each step you take in obedience brings you closer to his heart, deeper into his purposes, and more fully into alignment with his kingdom. The result is a life that bears fruit, not just occasionally, but consistently. A life that shines with the light of the Messiah, that draws others not to you, but to him. A life that, when heaven looks upon it, reflects the order, beauty, and holiness of the one who designed it. So to walk with the Messiah is not just a matter of belief, it is a matter of alignment. It is a sacred reordering of everything you are to match everything he is. It is the surrender of your will to his, your plans to his purposes, your timeline to his seasons. And in that surrender, in that alignment, you will find what your soul has been longing for all along, divine peace, divine purpose, and the divine presence of the one who calls you his own. The call to walk with the Messiah is not a journey of isolation, but a transformation of lifestyle that redefines every aspect of human experience. It is not a weekend event, a Sunday ritual, or a religious label. It is a radical reorientation of life, a continual unfolding of divine purpose that permeates our time, thoughts, emotions, relationships, and daily decisions. The walk with the Messiah is not confined to sacred spaces or ceremonial gatherings. It is a sacred existence where the ordinary becomes extraordinary because he walks with you in the ordinary. Every step becomes an act of worship. Every moment an opportunity to reflect the character and heart of the one who called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. To walk with the Messiah is to understand that your life is no longer your own. It is not a matter of fitting him into your schedule. It is a matter of surrendering your schedule to him. When the Messiah said, "Follow me," he wasn't inviting people to a place, but to a person. That call wasn't just for the fishermen on the shores of Galilee. It is for every soul that hears his voice. Follow me means more than agreement. It demands movement. It is not passive belief, but active obedience. It is not about adding him to your life. It is about building your life upon him. The Messiah was not a man who fit neatly into religious categories. He disrupted comfort, challenged assumptions, confronted hypocrisy, and walked among the outcast and forgotten. To walk with him is to embody that same spirit. It is to live a lifestyle that reflects heaven's values in an earthbound world. It means living counter, culturally in a world that celebrates self while the kingdom calls us to die to self. The lifestyle of the Messiah is humility over pride, service over status, sacrifice over gain, purity over compromise, and truth over popularity. These are not occasional acts. They are the rhythm of a life transformed by grace. Walking with the Messiah means that the fruit of your life begins to align with his nature. You begin to see the world through his eyes. The hurting are no longer interruptions, but invitations. The lost are not judged, but pursued. The broken are not discarded, but healed. Your home becomes a sanctuary of peace. Your work becomes a mission field, and your time becomes a stewardship of eternity. You do not wait for the right setting to minister. You live as a minister in every setting. Your words carry life because they flow from His Spirit. Your actions reflect the values of the kingdom because your heart is rooted in His. This lifestyle is not void of challenges. In fact, walking with the Messiah often brings a cross. He said clearly, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me." That is not symbolic poetry. It is a call to die daily, to your own agenda, to your own preferences, to the part of you that resists surrender. But the paradox is this: in dying you live, in surrendering you gain, in losing your life for His sake you find it. The way of the Messiah is the narrow path, not easy, but filled with glory. Not comfortable, but deeply fulfilling, not popular, but eternally impactful. The lifestyle of walking with the Messiah redefines success. The world measures success by accumulation, visibility, and power. But the Messiah redefined greatness as serving others. He washed feet. He touched lepers. He welcomed children. He noticed the unnoticed, and He expects those who walk with Him to do the same. When your life is anchored in Him, you no longer chase success. You reflect significance. You no longer live to be remembered. You live to make Him known. Walking with Him also means you live with purpose. You don't wake up wondering why you exist. You carry the light of the world inside of you. You walk as an ambassador of heaven. You are part of a divine mission to bring reconciliation between God and man. Every day becomes an assignment. Every interaction becomes an opportunity. Every trial becomes a test of faithfulness. And every blessing becomes a tool for stewardship. This lifestyle is marked by the fruit of the Spirit: love that sacrifices, joy that endures, peace that passes understanding, patience that waits with hope, kindness that sees beyond flaws, goodness that acts without applause, faithfulness that continues when no one notices, gentleness that responds with grace, self-control that chooses obedience over impulse. These are not personality traits. They are the natural outgrowth of a life abiding in the vine. When you walk with the Messiah, you don't try to produce fruit. You bear it because you are connected to the source. The walk also reshapes how you handle suffering. The world avoids pain and idolizes comfort, but the lifestyle of the Messiah teaches that suffering can be sacred. It is in suffering that we share in His heart. It is in affliction that we draw near to His strength. He never promised a path without trials, but He promised His presence through them. When you walk with Him, storms no longer shake you, they shape you. Pain no longer defines you, it refines you. You begin to understand that His grace is sufficient, not just to remove the thorn, but to sustain you through it. Community also becomes central to this lifestyle. The Messiah didn't walk alone, and neither should we. He walked in fellowship, with the 12, with the multitudes, with the hurting. To walk with Him means we walk with one another. We bear each other's burdens. We pray, forgive, encourage, and build one another up. We become family, not by blood, but by spirit. And this spiritual family becomes a testimony to the world of what love looks like. By this will all men know you are my disciples, if you love one another. Holiness becomes a desire, not a duty. When you walk with the Messiah, purity is not about rules. It is about relationship. You don't avoid sin because of fear. You avoid it because you love Him too much to grieve His heart. You don't pursue righteousness to earn salvation. You pursue it because you've already received it. Holiness is not about trying harder. It is about drawing closer. The closer you walk with Him, the more you become like Him. And in all this, worship becomes a lifestyle, not an event. Worship is not confined to music or meetings. It is expressed in how you live. It is in your obedience when no one sees. It is in your generosity when it costs you. It is in your integrity when temptation whispers. It is in your faithfulness when the crowd is gone. Worship becomes the offering of your entire life, a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. The walk with the Messiah also reawakens wonder. The world grows dull with routine, but those who walk with him learn to see the divine in the daily. A sunrise becomes a reminder of his faithfulness. A conversation becomes a divine appointment. A simple meal becomes a blessing. You begin to see that nothing is truly mundane when the Messiah is near. He brings purpose to everything, beauty to the ordinary, and depth to the moment. This lifestyle is one of continual transformation. The journey never ends in this life. The more you walk with him, the more he transforms you from glory to glory. You begin as a follower, but he calls you friend. You walk as a servant, but he gives you the authority of a son. You start in weakness, but he fills you with power. The life of walking with the Messiah is not stagnant. It is ever increasing in grace, truth, love, and power. Ultimately, this lifestyle is not about perfection. It is about direction. It's not about how many times you stumble, but whether you keep walking. The Messiah doesn't expect flawlessness. He desires faithfulness. When you fall, he lifts you. When you wander, he calls you back. He walks beside you with patience, leading you deeper into the life you were created to live. He is not only your destination, he is your companion along the way. To walk with the Messiah is to live the life heaven intended, a life fully alive, fully surrendered, and fully aligned with the heartbeat of God. And as you live this way, you don't just talk about him, you become a living testimony of him, a reflection of his love, a vessel of his presence, a lighthouse to those lost in the dark. And in the end, this is the greatest life you could ever live, not for your glory, but for his, not for your comfort, but for his kingdom, not for your story, but for the unfolding of his eternal plan through your surrendered life. The walk with the Messiah is not merely a walk of companionship, it is a journey of revelation. Each step taken in his presence is an unveiling, a divine disclosure of hidden mysteries that can only be discerned through relationship, not intellect. When you walk with the Messiah, you don't simply gain information about God. You come to know God himself. And in knowing him, you begin to see all of life differently. The scriptures which once seemed like ancient texts now become living words. The stories, the commandments, the prophecies, they are no longer distant or disconnected. They begin to breathe, they begin to speak, and you realize that the entire Word of God is not just about history, it is about him. From the first line of Genesis to the final promise of Revelation, the Messiah is revealed. He is the seed of the woman who would crush the serpent's head. He is the ark that saves from judgment. He is the lamb whose blood causes death to pass over. He is the manna in the wilderness, the rock that brings forth water, the light in the temple, the high priest who intercedes for the people. Every shadow, every symbol, every feast, every ordinance points to him. But you cannot see this with natural eyes. It is only in walking with him, through obedience, faith, and surrender, that your eyes begin to open. The walk with the Messiah is the restoration of sight, not just physical sight, but spiritual insight. You begin to discern the unseen. You become aware of patterns and purposes that were once hidden. What seemed ordinary becomes pregnant with divine meaning. The more you walk, the more you see, and the more you see, the more you realize how much there is still to be revealed. This walk is a continual unveiling. Just as he revealed himself gradually to the disciples on the road to Emmaus, so he reveals himself gradually to us. They walked with him without realizing who he was, until their eyes were opened in the breaking of bread. In the same way, when we open the Word with Him, when we break the bread of His presence, our hearts burn within us and our eyes are opened. This revelation is not limited to biblical knowledge. It extends to every aspect of life. When you walk with the Messiah, He reveals the truth about yourself. He unveils your identity, not as the world has defined you, but as heaven sees you. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your weaknesses. You are who He says you are, redeemed, chosen, set apart, filled with purpose. The enemy seeks to veil your identity in shame, fear, and confusion. But the Messiah, in His walk with you, gently removes those veils. He does not reveal to condemn. He reveals to heal. And in that healing, you begin to walk in the confidence of a beloved son or daughter of the King. As you walk with Him, He also reveals the truth about others. Where you once saw enemies, you begin to see souls. Where you once saw obstacles, you begin to see opportunities. You begin to love differently because you see differently. Judgment gives way to compassion. Bitterness gives way to intercession. Superficiality gives way to spiritual discernment. This is not because you have become wiser in yourself. It is because the light of the Messiah now illuminates your path. You begin to walk not just in revelation, but as a vessel of revelation. Your life becomes a light to those still walking in darkness. Revelation also comes in the timing of the journey. The Messiah does not reveal everything at once. He gives light for each step. He calls you out of the boat before showing you how to walk on water. He tells you to move forward before the Red Sea parts. He often reveals in motion what He conceals in stillness. This is the divine paradox. The more you trust, the more He reveals, and the more He reveals, the more you trust. Revelation is tied to obedience. Many want revelation without submission, but revelation is the fruit of surrender. When you obey the small promptings, He entrusts you with deeper truths. When you yield your will, He aligns you with His. And as your heart softens in His presence, your spirit becomes more sensitive to His whisper. There is also revelation in the wilderness. The walk with the Messiah will sometimes lead you into dry places, not to punish, but to reveal. In the wilderness, distractions are stripped away. In the wilderness, idols are exposed. In the wilderness, the voice of the Lord becomes clearer. It was in the wilderness that Israel received the Torah. It was in the wilderness that John prepared the way. It was in the wilderness that Yeshua overcame the tempter. And it is often in your wilderness that the Messiah reveals your calling, purifies your motives, and sharpens your vision. The walk also unveils the mystery of suffering. In a world that flees pain, the Messiah reveals its purpose. He does not cause suffering, but He redeems it. When you suffer with Him, you are not alone. You are being conformed to His image. The pain becomes a portal to intimacy. The tears become seeds of revelation. The questions become invitations to deeper communion. And though you may not receive all the answers, you receive something greater, the presence of the One who holds all things together. Walking with the Messiah also reveals the heartbeat of God for the nations. You begin to see His global plan, not just for your personal salvation, but for the redemption of the world. You see His longing for every tribe, tongue, and nation to know Him. You understand your role in the Great Commission, not as a religious duty, but as a divine privilege. Whether through prayer, giving, going, or testifying, you become part of heaven's redemptive mission. Your perspective shifts from the temporary to the eternal, from the self-centered to the kingdom-centered. Revelation also comes through prophetic alignment. The Messiah walked in fulfillment of prophecy, and when you walk with Him, you begin to live prophetically. You begin to see current events through the lens of biblical truth. You understand the signs of the times. You recognize the urgency of the hour. You are no longer asleep. You are awake, alert, and aligned. You do not fear the future, you are prepared for it, because the Messiah has revealed not only what was and is, but what is to come. The walk also reveals the power of the Spirit. The Messiah promised that those who follow him would receive the Holy Spirit, not as a doctrine, but as a living presence. The Spirit becomes your guide, your comforter, your teacher. He reveals the deep things of God, convicts of sin, empowers for service, and fills your life with supernatural peace and joy. You begin to live not by might, nor by power, but by his Spirit. Dreams are awakened. Gifts are activated. The impossible becomes possible not by your strength, but by the one who walks with you. This walk with the Messiah leads not to religion, but to revelation, not to routine, but to relationship. It is not about knowing more facts. It is about knowing him, and in knowing him everything changes. You are no longer content with surface-level faith. You hunger for the deep. You thirst for righteousness. You seek his face, not just his hand. You desire his presence more than any earthly reward, because you have tasted and seen that he is good. The walk is continual. There is no graduation from revelation, no arrival point where you have learned enough. The more you walk with him, the more you realize how vast, how infinite, how glorious he truly is, and the more he reveals, the more you want to keep walking. It is a holy pursuit, fueled by love, sustained by grace, and crowned with glory. To walk with the Messiah, then, is to live a life of divine unveiling. It is to move from shadow to substance, from mystery to meaning, from blindness to sight. And as he reveals himself to you, he also reveals you to yourself. Your calling, your worth, your destiny. You were not made for darkness. You were made for light. You were not created to wander aimlessly. You were made to walk in step with the King. And as you do, revelation will flood your path, truth will anchor your soul, and his presence will become your greatest treasure. When one chooses to walk with the Messiah, life no longer remains a string of disconnected moments, random events, or coincidences. Instead, it becomes a divine orchestration of purpose where every detail, every encounter, and every challenge is woven into a greater tapestry designed by the hand of God. To walk with the Messiah is to walk with intention, clarity, and destiny. It is the realization that your life is not an accident. It is a calling. You were chosen not by the will of man, but by the heart of heaven. You were created with a mission, and that mission is not only to believe, but to become a light in darkness, a vessel of truth, a bearer of his presence. This revelation of purpose doesn't come in a single moment, but unfolds gradually in the process of walking with him. Purpose is not a title you wear or a career you pursue. It is a way of being, a divine alignment where your steps match his rhythm, your thoughts mirror his truth, and your life echoes his voice. The Messiah never called people to comfort. He called them to purpose. And that purpose is always connected to transformation of yourself and of the world around you. When he said, "Follow me," he meant, step into the reason you were born. You don't walk with him to merely survive. You walk with him to fulfill destiny. In walking with him, you come to understand that your gifts are not random. Your passions are not mistakes. Your life story, with all its pain and triumph, becomes a testimony. What once felt like broken pieces now reveals itself as the raw material for divine purpose. The Messiah wastes nothing. Every wound becomes a door for compassion. Every setback becomes a platform for breakthrough. Every disappointment becomes training for spiritual maturity. And in the process, you learn that purpose is not just about what you do, but about who you are becoming. It is not merely performance. It is identity lived out. Purpose in the kingdom is always relational. It begins with intimacy and flows into influence. The Messiah called his disciples to be with him before sending them out to minister. Your first calling is not ministry, but nearness, and out of that nearness flows direction, clarity, and fruitfulness. When you walk close to Him, you don't have to strive to find your purpose. It begins to reveal itself. He speaks through the Scriptures, through circumstances, through the still small voice in your spirit. He confirms His word through peace, through doors that open or close, through the wise counsel of godly voices. But above all, He confirms it by His presence. When you walk in purpose, you carry a sense of divine appointment. You know that you are where you are supposed to be, doing what He created you to do. This purpose, however, is not always glamorous. Often it requires hiddenness before public revelation. Just as Moses was prepared in the wilderness, just as David served in the fields before the throne, and just as Yeshua himself lived in obscurity for 30 years before beginning his ministry, so too your purpose may be forged in seasons of waiting. These are not wasted seasons. They are refining seasons. The world values visibility, but the kingdom values preparation. And the Messiah is more concerned with the depth of your roots than the height of your platform. He will not send you to carry His glory if your character cannot sustain it, so He prepares you in private before using you in public. Walking in purpose also means embracing the cost. Purpose always comes with a price. Abraham had to leave his country, Esther had to risk her life, Paul had to endure persecution, the Messiah himself bore the cross. To walk in purpose is to accept the refining fire, the shaping hand, and the pruning process. It is to lay down your own agenda in exchange for something eternal. But though the cost is great, the reward is greater. When you live in divine purpose, you live with peace. You wake up with vision. You endure trials with hope. You navigate storms with confidence, because you know that your steps are ordered by the Lord. Your purpose is never just about you. When you walk with the Messiah, your life becomes a vessel for others' redemption. Just as He lived to serve, heal, and restore, so too does your purpose involve bringing others into His love. You are not called to build your own kingdom, but to advance His. Your purpose is not measured by accolades, but by impact. Did you bring healing? Did you speak truth? Did you reflect His light? These are the metrics of kingdom purpose. And as you walk, He multiplies your influence in ways you cannot imagine. A single act of obedience can ripple through generations. A single word spoken in love can transform a heart. A single step in faith can open doors no man can shut. The walk of purpose also brings spiritual authority. You begin to move not in your name, but in His. You speak and things shift, not because of eloquence, but because you carry the weight of His presence. You pray and heaven responds, not because of religious ritual, but because your life is aligned with His will. You face opposition, but you are not shaken, because your purpose gives you strength. When you know why you were sent, you are not easily distracted. You do not chase applause or fear rejection. You are anchored. You are focused, you are resolved. Purpose also brings joy, not the fleeting joy of circumstance, but the enduring joy of fulfillment. When you walk in purpose, even hard days carry meaning, even pain carries perspective. You no longer live as a victim of life. You live as a participant in a divine mission. You don't merely exist. You build, you plant, you invest, you multiply. Your time, your resources, your talents. They are no longer spent, but sown. And the fruit of your life testifies to the hand of God upon you. But the revelation of purpose is not a one-time event. It is a continual unfolding. As you walk with the Messiah, He reveals new assignments, new seasons, new dimensions of your calling. Just as a tree grows in stages, so your purpose matures over time. There are seasons of planting, seasons of pruning, seasons of harvest. There are times to speak and times to be silent, times to go and times to stay. But through it all, the guiding hand of the Messiah remains steady. He leads you from faith to faith, from glory to glory, from assignment to assignment. Walking in purpose also means embracing your uniqueness. You are not called to copy someone else's journey. You are not a replica. You are a masterpiece. The Messiah crafted you with intention. Your background, your personality, your passions, even your weaknesses, they are all part of your divine design. The world needs your specific light. The kingdom advances when each person walks in their own lane. Comparison kills purpose, but confidence in your divine design fuels it. When you know who you are in Him, you stop competing and start contributing. And lastly, the purpose you walk in with the Messiah ultimately leads you back to Him. He is both the destination and the way. You are not walking toward a goal apart from Him. You are walking with Him, and in doing so, you become more like Him. Your purpose is not only about doing for God. It is about becoming with God. It is about being transformed into the image of the Messiah, so that your life, your voice, your hands, your presence carry the fragrance of heaven. To walk in divine purpose is to live fully alive. It is to wake up each day knowing that your life matters, that your choices echo in eternity, and that the Messiah walks with you, guiding, shaping, and empowering you every step of the way. It is not always easy, it is not always clear, but it is always worth it, because in walking with Him, you don't just discover purpose, you become the purpose for which you were created. And through your surrendered life, the world encounters the glory, the love,